with a star blamed for apparently failing to get over, and more. This is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we move on, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Rambles with notifications on, and don't forget to like the video. Claiming that he missed out on millions of dollars from the song Ric Flair Drip, the Nature Boy said this on the Jackson podcast. The damnedest story he said about Ric Flair Drip song. I just gotten out of the hospital. I actually had the stoma bag on. I had a stoma for a year when I got out. The bag, right, attached to my intestine, and I had just gotten out of the hospital. I didn't have an agent, so they made $48 million. I made 39 grand. That song went 7 times platinum. I didn't have a contract with them. Offset said, "You want to do it?" I said, "Yeah," and I didn't have an agent because I had no memory for 6 months after I got out. Speaking about Trick Williams becoming NXT champion, Carmelo Hayes noted on the Ringer Wrestling show, "Yeah, I think the culmination of it all, and him winning the NXT title, it feels like an accomplishment for me as well. Just bringing him in early on and getting his feet wet and kind of helping him along the way and seeing him reach the top, you know what I mean? It was a very kind of proud moment in a way, despite all the in-between and the this or that. It was a proud moment. It was just like, wow, not who would have thought. You can't predict that it would have went that smooth. We both reached the pinnacle, just us two dudes. We had got just kind of thrown together, and I've said it before, that's what that was. It was kind of like, boom, hey, let's get these guys TV time and see what happens, and you know, along the way, creatively, we were able to make things happen to sway them that way, and thankfully, with my skill in the wrestling wise, I was able to make things happen and reach the top, and then, you know, help him up as well. So I mean, like I said, it was just a very kind of poetic justice type moment of like, wow, who would have thought us two dudes dapping up, oh, you bout it, the beginning of the Rainbow NXT, where everyone wanted to see us fail, and here we go. These two dudes made history. Touching on the springboard botch from his match against Cody Rhodes on Smackdown, Carmelo Hayes said this during that same interview. I mean, I think it's wild that people thought Cody Rhodes was going to catch me with a Cody cutter in midair. If you see what it was, we both do a springboard move. He's got the disaster kick. He's got the Cody cutter. I've got a couple of different things. I tried to catch him. He tried to catch me, but he wasn't fast enough to catch me, and I ducked underneath, and then I came in and I capitalized. I think people romanticized and grandirized what it was. I didn't even really address it truthfully, and I know Cody could care less, but at the same time, it's like fans think that they know so much, and they're not in there with us. They don't know what we're attempting to do, and just sit back and enjoy the show. I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, he was throwing for a touchdown. Whole time, he was just trying to get a completion. It's never what people think it is, so I mean, that was what that was. But I mean, hey, that would have been great if he could have got me in a Cody cutter. Not great for me, it would have been great for Cody. On WWE's The Bump, Kevin Owens gave his thoughts on this new iteration of the Bloodline, saying it's a bootleg Bloodline. No matter what's happened between me and Roman Reigns and the Usos and everything, I have an incredible amount of respect for those guys because they've been on the road. They've done everything we've done. I've been all over the world with them. Tama Tonga, I don't know him. I know he's been wrestling for a long time, but I have no idea. Up until he showed up a few weeks ago, I never met the guy. I've never been around him. You come in the way they did, just a real coward's way, you know? I don't really know what Solo's deal is. Solo, he's been around for a few years. He's nothing like the Usos, nothing like Roman. I don't respect this bloodline. During the review for the match between Damian Priest and Jey Uso at Backlash, Jim Cornette was asked if the World Heavyweight Champion should become a babyface, to which he replied, "No, actually I hope they would have been putting more heel heat on him a little bit, instead of having him still play with the children since Rhea Ripley's gone and Dominic Mysterio is gone. Why not let Finn Balor and JD McDonough do whatever they need to do and let Damian Priest be a single top heel champion before we go turning him? Because the problem is, the more over you are as a heel, the more over you are when you become a babyface, or vice versa." Explaining why he did not discuss his intention to leave WWE for AEW with Vince McMahon, Jim Ross noted on his Grilling JR podcast, "That never happened. I never had any conversation with Vince whatsoever, because why would I have conversations with him? Because it was obvious that he wanted to have another announcer out there. One that wasn't old, one that wasn't southern, one that wasn't chubby. I'm not as chubby today as I was then, so I didn't bother him with it. That's Barry's job." And Barry had a good rapport with Vince, still does, because he represents Paul Heyman and others. So he was in communication with Vince on a quasi-regular basis because of the talents that he'd already represented or was representing. Revealing how he suffered a torn pec, Matt Cardona told Busted Open Radio, "So, long story short, I clotheslined someone over the top rope and I tore my pec. Stuff happens. This ain't ballet. Nobody's fault. It's an unfortunate situation. There's no good time to get injured, but this is not a good time, especially for me. But I'm already back on the road making shows like you said. I'm the new general manager of GCW, so I'll be out of in-ring competition for the next few months, but I'll still be making towns. I've built up a skill set. I don't need to wrestle. I can cut a promo. I can be the general manager. I can do commentary, meet and greets. So GCW this week, I was on the show more times than normal. I opened the show with a promo. I did commentary. I did backstage stuff. I came out at the end, so yeah, of course I can wrestle, but so can everybody. Well, in theory, they should be able to. I could do everything else, so that's the appeal to me." Despite SmackDown being set to move from Fox to the USA Network in October, that date has been moved up. As Dave Meltzer noted in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, SmackDown will also be moving from Fox to USA a few weeks early. The Fox contract expires at the end of September, but Fox was going to move several September episodes to FS1 due to college football, which is what it's replacing SmackDown with, so USA agreed to debut the show on September 13th, which is a Friday. Seattle has been talked about as a location for the first show, and of course, in kicking off on a new station, the idea is to load up the show. Ringside News added that Seattle will host the return episode on September 13th, which will feature a stacked card. NBC Universal plans to promote the period from September 9th to 13th as WWE Week, with a range of programming including Fast and Furious movies featuring John Cena and The Rock, as well as blockers starring Cena and the Bray Wyatt Becoming Immortal documentary. Meltzer also noted that SmackDown is expected to continue airing on Fridays after its move to USA Network. Going over a quote from Paul Heyman that came from Ronda Rousey, Ringside News wrote that during the summer of 2022, Ronda Rousey and Liv Morgan engaged in a highly anticipated feud. It started after Morgan cashed in the briefcase the same night as the Money in the Bank event to become the new SmackDown Women's Champion. Afterwards, the two had a couple of matches at SummerSlam and Extreme Rules respectively. In the end, the feud ended up becoming a massive disappointment for fans, and for good reason. Ronda Rousey even dragged WWE Creative for making their feud so forgettable and simply bad. In her autobiography, Our Fight, Ronda Rousey revealed that she was initially supposed to regain her title from Liv Morgan at SummerSlam, but Vince McMahon decided to extend Liv's run as champion. According to the plan, Rousey would have Liv Morgan in an armbar, causing her to tap out, but the referee wouldn't see it, leading to yet another controversial finish. Rousey found this outcome tiresome and felt it risked turning the crowd against Liv. Despite attempts to change the storyline, Triple H informed them that Vince was firm on this decision. "I was supposed to take back my title from from Liv at SummerSlam, but Vince had decided that we needed to build Liv up as a champion longer. As he envisioned that match, I'd get Liv in an armbar, she'd tap, but for what felt like the 500th time in a row, the ref wouldn't see it, and I'd get screwed yet again. Even I was bored with that version of the ending, and it was setting Liv up for the crowd to turn on her. We tried to appeal to Triple H, but he said Vince was adamant this was going to set up the moment I turned. People had to understand why I was angry. They had to believe I was pushed to my breaking point, and I was, only not because of some BS official calls. Rousey noted that the unpopular ending led to backlash from fans. Liv, who had recently been one of WWE's most beloved champions, was suddenly booed and met with "you tapped out" chants. When Rousey brought up the issue with Paul Heyman, he shifted the blame to Liv, claiming she invited the negative reaction by responding to a single fan's chant instead of ignoring it. He concluded it was her fault. The ending was not embraced by the fan base. Liv, just a week before the WWE Universe's most beloved champion, was rained down upon with "you tapped out" chants. When I brought it up to Heyman, he blamed Liv for getting flustered by it. She invited the reaction she got. He said just one fan chanted. She responded. She should have just ignored him. It was her fault. As Wheeler Yuta has been absent from AEW programming since January, it was recently said that Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp is told that Yuta has been dealing with concussion symptoms for months. As of now, we haven't learned a timetable for his potential return. When we last asked about Yuta in March, the hope was that the injury would not sideline him for long. However, that hasn't been the case. With it rumored that Detroit was bidding to host WrestleMania in 2027, the Detroit Sports Commission said this in a statement to the Detroit News. Contrary to recent speculation, the DSC is not currently in the process of preparing a bid to host WrestleMania in 2027. However, we remain enthusiastic about the prospect of hosting future major WWE events. The Detroit Sports Commission values its strong relationship with WWE and is proud to have hosted some of their premier events across the Metro Detroit region. The DSC consistently evaluates opportunities and actively pursues bids for potential future events, leveraging our long-standing relationships with national governing bodies, sanctioning bodies, and event owners. We look forward to continuing our successful partnership with WWE and welcoming more thrilling events to our vibrant city in the years to come. Providing a health update on her cat, Natalya posted this photo to X and wrote, "Tupaw's had his cancer checkup today, and while he is struggling, he is so strong. He's such a fighter. We don't deserve the love and joy animals bring to us, especially an animal like him." Talking about what will be happening at the King and Queen of the Ring event for Cody Rhodes, Dave Meltzer noted in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that we were told by those in WWE that Rhodes is pegged for the main event on this show in a title match, and the opponent should start being built imminently since the show is so close at hand. Revealing how Rhea Ripley was punished by WWE for what happened during a match that she had, Ringside News wrote that Charlotte Flair defended her SmackDown Women's Championship against Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania 39 Saturday. There was a lot of anticipation for the match as both competitors had proved their worth in the ring. Rhea Ripley defeated Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship in what was an incredible matchup at WrestleMania 39. In her autobiography, Our Fight, Ronda Rousey discussed the WrestleMania incident where Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair went over their allotted time by 20 minutes. Despite criticism from some backstage who felt it was disrespectful to the men's tag title match that was scheduled to follow, Rousey admired Ripley and Flair for ignoring instructions to wrap up and continuing their match. The night before at WrestleMania, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte went over their allotted time by 20 minutes, putting on arguably the best match of the weekend-long event. There were were some murmurs backstage that it was disrespectful of the main event, a men's tag title match, but I thought it was badass that they took the time to tell their story to the fullest and stole the show. When they were told to wrap it up so the men after them could perform in front of a fresher crowd, Charlotte and Rhea just kept going like the bosses they were. Instead of running backstage when ordered to do so, they took a stand. I admired them for putting their collective foot down. However, Rousey pointed out that this defiance had consequences as she claimed WWE punished Ripley after Ripley won the title despite being one of the most popular women in WWE. She only defended her title twice in over 5 months. Instead, she primarily accompanied the Judgment Day to the ring like a 1990s valet rather than focusing on her wrestling career. But their act of defiance wouldn't be without repercussions after Rhea won the title despite being the most over fan favorite woman in the company. She was only allowed to defend her title twice in over 5 months. Instead, she spent most of her time escorting the men in her faction, Judgment Day, to and from the ring like a 1990s valet instead of wrestling herself. The message to the women was clear. If you take time from the men, even if you're the hottest name in the company will make sure to take even more time from you. An incident took place involving a fan making remarks to female talent in AEW as Wintertime 13 posted this account to Reddit. Watched an awful thing happen involving Skye Blue tonight at the Ring of Honor taping. A man in the front row continued to make vulgar comments about Skye, commenting on her body, calling her baby girl, the whole shebang. The whole match wouldn't stop when people around him told him to shut up. He just got louder. Aubrey Edwards finishes reffing the match and screams for him to be kicked out to security. Both AEW security and arena security were involved. More people were called when he put up a fight. He had a child with him. Skye left the ring quickly and was very upset. Really awful thing to observe in 2024. Eric Gold replied on X, during Mariah's match with Harley, Saraya also pointed out some fans in the front row who were harassing the wrestlers. It's 2024, but women in wrestling still have so many barriers to overcome because some men still don't know how to behave in public. Kimberly Ford added, I wasn't in the crowd for this match, but was watching on screen. I was sitting in the row behind where these people were at one point. Shouting filth like this is absolutely appalling. It makes me physically sick to know someone probably made Skye feel less than the strong, talented woman she is. I'm sorry, Skye, for what you had to endure last night. It's not a representation of how I would hope Alberta's appreciation for you wrestling here. So Rhea would also chime in, calling the two men losers. Many would come to the defense of Blue, but some users on X did not. One user wrote this, some fatherly advice for Skye Blue and all female wrestlers. Stop showing so much ass. Try to look more like a fighter than a stripper. The fishnets are corny. You're making these nerds feel comfortable. The Instagram thirst traps, the OnlyFans, and anything like that is enabling them to think you're a piece of meat. You snowflakes think is bad? Ask black wrestlers what they had to deal with back in the days, and I'm not making any excuses. Just pointing out the obvious so you can go F yourselves. Feminism was about y'all having a fair shot at doing what men did with no discrimination, not about showing more ass. This garnered a response from TNA star Gazelle Shaw, who wrote, here's some advice. WTF does showing a lot of ass have to do with wrestling? We can show a lot of ass if we want to and still kick ass. Our body, our choice, so we can do whatever we want. If you're a fan, then be one. Shut up and enjoy it. If you're a father, then teach your kids to respect people and don't shout derogatory things and hurt people. WWE star Chelsea Green also replied to this post writing, let me get this straight. Our male counterparts can walk around shirtless with tiny underwear on, but we can't wear our outfits because you, mouth breathers, can't keep your in your pants. Sounds like the problem isn't Skye and her insanely great body, it's you, my guy. Rachel Ellering wrote, the speed in which referee Aubrey and I got out of the ring last night post-match to get this creep kicked out was remarkable. Olympic medalist speeds. I've never in my career heard such vulgar things being said to talent during a match. Sexual harassment is not heckling. Aubrey Edwards replied, if you yell disgusting, vile, hateful things at my co-workers, I will make sure your ass gets kicked out. There is no place for that in wrestling. Heckling is fine, but when you've made the performers, me included, feel uncomfortable in their place of work, you've gone too far. Skye Blue then broke her silence, writing, "I'm beyond overwhelmed with all the love and support. Thank you, everyone. You have no idea how much it's appreciated. Let's make sure the future generations of women wrestlers don't have to deal with this Going over the current plan for The Rock at WrestleMania 41, Dave Meltzer reported in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that at this point, the show is scheduled to feature Cody Rhodes versus The Rock. Dwayne Johnson's idea is WWE title versus People's title. Those in WWE have noted that there is no guarantee Rhodes will be champion at that time, which is where the People's Belt comes in. But so many things can change over the course of a year. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.